I've just been thinking a lot about the economy recently. The sad state and the sad reality for people 17 to 30 that most of us will never be able to afford a house, that most of us will probably never get married, have children, have a wife or kids, that a fair portion of us are going to be barely scraping by, continuing to live into apartments until we're 80. And if we do ever dare decide to finally buy a house, we'll be so old and we won't have anyone to pass it on to. And, you know, I think that that's just not right, and to a degree I sympathize with the fight for 15 people, but the problem is that it's not the minimum wage, right? Because we can continue to raise the minimum wage, and our problems are going to continue to perpetuate and become worse. And so, to a degree, I think the best way to fix this problem isn't to demand companies, but rather to fix the fundamental problem with the money, which is the continual printing of the money that the Federal Reserve does, which devalues the purchasing power of the dollar. And also, on top of that, helping to reduce the national debt, which makes the US dollar a weaker currency than, say, the euro or the yen or wherever China's currency is, or Canada, the Canadian dollar. Even the Canadian dollar is more powerful than the US dollar is right now. That's sad. That's sad when the Canadians have a more powerful hypothetical economy than the American economy is, And I've been thinking of this a lot, and this is just something I wanted to rant about and vent out a little bit, that as a person who works now, as a working person, I'm tired of seeing people on welfare be, for the lack of a better way stated, essentially lazy, get better things to eat. And when I mean better, not healthy per se, but better as in a more expensive or qualitative thing, like chocolate bars, and other various foods. And it's not even really welfare that pisses me off that much. It's much more that we have to work so hard as a country and not reap the benefits of our work. That other people get more rewards than we do. And it's for the lack of a better way to state it, it sucks to work. Now, working's not bad, but working's not fun either. If there was more hours to work, if there was more, of an economic opportunity available through the modern working system, then maybe working would be a little bit enjoyable. Maybe we wouldn't mind welfare recipients so much. Maybe we would be okay with immigrants, But the fact is that the working quality has been degraded over time, and the quality of life has been degraded. I'm not saying it sucks to live in America. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not what it used to be. Back, let's say, 1950s to maybe 80s, right? Your average Joe Schmo working at a gas station pumping gas could become a college professor in less than 4 to 10 years. Nowadays, people like me, millennials, young people, we have to work 20 years perhaps, just to even conceptualize the idea of daring to attempt to step into a college. And the problem on top of that makes the modern working system worse is you go to college, and it's because so many people go to college now that the college degree has become virtually worthless. We need some sort of separation, some sort of thing that puts all the workers and divides it from the work nots. Yeah, they have a fancy degree, but they're not going to be the people who are the best workers. And I think it should be based around merit, not necessarily, a fancy degree, a fancy piece of paper made by some arbitrary establishment institution that we say, oh, this is a qualified measure of human success, And as you can see, the modern college system, outside of the political correctness and social justice, cultural Marxism, it's failing us. We as a nation have significantly dropped in literacy and math abilities. We used to be number one at everything. Our economy was strong. We were launching rockets to the moon all the time. But now we have to defund NASA. We have to, make our kids share textbooks from the 1990s. We don't have the resources and abilities that we did back 20, 30, 40, even 50 to 60 years ago, We just don't have an economy. We don't have an education system. And to go back to the point of how badly it's degraded, America used to be number one, but now in math and literacy, we're 26th and 27th, While other countries like Japan, and Switzerland, China, every other country in the world is preparing their children for the future of jobs, Whereas America, we're still using, and yes, I know this is the cliche, stereotypically repeated phrase that our school education system was made 100 years ago for the Industrial Revolution and all that. Yes, that's an old, commonly repeated speaking point, but I think to a degree our schools might have changed a little bit since then, but I do agree with those kind of people that we need a radical change in the foundation of our education system, because the future of jobs is computers, programming, the dystopian, for the lack of a better way to say it, dystopian Jetsons, where majority of the labor force is replaced by robots. The future of jobs is going to be programming, computers, art, media, and not to get into a complex discussion about things like UBI and how we're going to face the future challenges of automation, because that's a separate challenge within itself. But I think what we need to focus on right now as a country is to help restore the purchasing power of the dollar by fixing, for the lack of a better way stated, the Federal Reserve. We need to fix the Federal Reserve, as Ron Paul would say, audit the Federal Reserve or end it, okay? And so, even if we decide to keep the Federal Reserve around for arbitrary reasons, can we at least regulate it to a degree where the currency, where the value of the dollar doesn't gradually decrease over time? Can we at least keep it to a stable enough level, or a level that is reasonable? And I just think it's a two-sided sword when it comes to the economy. I think the projected growth under Trump is a fake economy, and what I mean by fake economy is just because everything looks good, because wages might be rising, and people have better jobs, and there's more jobs in the job market, and people are buying cars now, and all that doesn't mean the actual underlying economy of the US is strong. And I don't really know how to properly convey that idea, but simply, even if the contemporary economy for us right now is doing relatively all right under Trump, the big overall global scale of the American economy is weak, and that needs to be fixed, because one economical error could fundamentally destroy America out of the global economy. And I think the best we can do is to reduce the damage done by what one could say the inevitable collapse of the American dollar. Now, I would hope in the ideal world, Donald Trump and Congress and, Democrats, blah, 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 everyone's like, hey, you see that number, that 21 trillion number? Can we reduce that a little bit? Kind of cut the military a little bit, make some cuts from Social Security and welfare, and God forbid we cut the rest of everything else, because we spend like only 50 million or 500 million on everything else besides military and social programs, So, we've essentially cut NASA, the education, Board of Education, we've cut transportation, we've cut every other department to fundamentally its raw bones to the core, But yet the military and Social Security and social programs continue to expand and get bigger. And no one knows why. Why? We thought we voted for an anti-war president. So then, why is the military budget increasing under both Obama and Trump, who were both supposedly anti-war presidents? And I'm not much of an anti-war person myself. I would, for the lack of a better way to state it, I would describe myself as a neocon. I think we need to go out and proactively stop dictators and tyrants and all the bad people in the world, But as far as that, I understand that our current foreign policy has failed, and we have accumulated debt through the neocon, in quotations, policy. And I do want our invasions in the Middle East, invasions put lightly, because America's not really invading, in my opinion. We're fighting a war that is always going to be fought, a war between freedom and liberty and between extreme radicals. I don't know how to state what I'm trying to say, but essentially, America is fighting a war that has been fought for centuries now. Wars in the Middle East are very common, but now we've decided to step in as a country and try to end that or reduce the pain and suffering of it. And one could argue there, but I'm not going to further expand on that point about the military, because I support the military, I support our troops, but I don't support the current foreign policy as it stands. Now, does that mean I don't support the ideas? I do. I support the hypothetical ideals that underlie the foreign policy, but I don't support the foreign policy as it currently stands. But I got sidetracked. So back to the point is I feel that the American economy, it's okay a little bit right now, but there needs to be a fundamental fix at the money end of it. We need to fix the purchasing power of the dollar. We need to restrict or control or end the Federal Reserve, we need to go back on a gold standard or a more solid standard. And we need to reduce our national debt so that trust in the American dollar gets restored. And that's all my thoughts on that. So, yeah. Okay. Bye.